just discovered the source of my phantom limb pain. Aside from that, when phantom limb pain is bad, it's tempting to blame either the severed nerves or the brain that controls those nerves. But what about the middleman? What connects the peripheral nerves to the brain? We'll get back to that in a minute. Hint, hint. Shortly after amputation, intense phantom limb pain is common. A couple months into recovery, things often improve, and eventually the amputee settles into whatever the new baseline is. For me, my phantom limb pain started out severe. Then around 7-ish months post-amputation, I could hardly feel my phantom foot. Then things got crazy. If you've been following my story, you know that last year I went from thinking I was about to take back my life to finding out my remaining foot had a devastating disease and fearing another amputation, then having my leg saved by an experimental medication. There's been a lot going on, not just with me, but also with my phantom foot. When CRPS started spreading up my remaining leg, my ghost foot returned with a vengeance. Since CRPS affects the nerves, I guessed that it was the cause of my dramatically increased phantom limb pain, but it wasn't, or at least not directly. Even when bisphosphonate infusion stopped the CRPS in its tracks, the phantom limb remained severe, which implies a different cause. The culprit was right under my nose, literally. No, surely not my beloved chariot. You see, as CRPS took over my leg, I'd stopped using my prosthesis in favor of my wheelchair. Problem: when you sit every waking moment of every day, many muscles are in a shortened position. They tighten, creating an imbalance. Standing lengthens these muscles, whereas sitting shortens them. In my case, these muscles have pulled my spine out of its natural position, causing an abnormal curve, a herniated disc, and even arthritis. And what does all this put pressure on? You guessed it, the nerves running down to my amputated leg. Youch! The areas of my phantom foot that I can actually feel correlate with this fascinating chart and also coordinate with the area where I have a problem in my back. Tell me in the comments what helps your phantom limb. Your comment could help someone else who's struggling. A like would also be much appreciated. I mean, who else adds ghost feet to their like button? I devised a 3-pronged strategy to rehab my back and banish my ghost foot, because I'm not taking this sitting down. Literally, because my first step to counteract the damage is to start taking steps. I'm walking more and more, but the reality is that I still sit a lot, partly because going from crippled to pseudo-normal overnight isn't realistic, and partly because modern life tends to be sedentary. We sit in cars, we sit at computers, we sit to eat. We sit a lot. Just wearing my prosthesis isn't going to be enough to counteract all that sitting. Time for strategy 2. I go to physical therapy to strengthen and lengthen imbalanced muscles, so they'll stop pulling my back in the wrong direction. My therapist also breaks apart bound-up fascia, which is a connective tissue, and does dry needling to help the overly tight muscles loosen up. Going to physical therapy every week is great, but that's only 1 hour out of 168 per week. If I want to reduce pain faster, I need to increase the ratio of time spent addressing the problem versus sitting around making it worse. Allow me to introduce you to my new home coach, specifically corecoach. This device is genius, and no, this video is not sponsored. I've simply been running an experiment to see whether this device might be helpful to you. You're welcome. When my physical therapist mentioned corecoach, I reached out to them and asked to try their product because I wanted to know if this would be a useful tool for amputees like me. They generously sent me one, and I've been using it for over a month. Spoiler alert, it's helped my phantom limb. So how does corecoach help with that? Simple. It prevents me from cheating. Your body is smart. When part of it is hurt or abnormally weak, it'll subconsciously come up with ways to compensate, which is a good survival mechanism, but terrible for trying to target muscles you're rehabilitating. It can look like I'm doing my exercises, when in reality, I'm not using the correct muscles. And since I'm not a professional, I don't realize I'm doing it wrong. I think I'm doing my homework, but in reality, I'm wasting my time. Months from now, I could be wondering why I'm not making more progress, despite putting in so much effort. Which is why a little tool makes a big difference. corecoach looks similar to a blood pressure cuff with an inflatable pillow. Pumping, pumping, pumping. When I do my exercises correctly, it puts pressure on the pillow, which I can see on this dial. I try to hold the needle steady while doing each rep. Turns out you get a much better workout when you do the exercise right. Before I got corecoach, I'd do several sets of each exercise and not feel much of a muscle burn. With corecoach, I feel it after a few reps. partly because my muscles are wimpy after being in a wheelchair so long, but also because I'm doing the exercise more correctly, which means I'm getting more reward for less time. Another amputee-specific perk is that now I can literally see the difference between my amputated side and my good side. I'll link to corecoach's website in the description, but again, I'm not making any money off this. It's just my honest experience. Within a month of starting corecoach, I had decreased phantom limb pain and decreased back pain, which supports what my physiatrist said about the two being connected. I'm not your doctor, so I don't know whether the cause of your phantom limb pain is the same as mine, but if I could give my past self a few words of wisdom, here's what I'd say. Different specialists have different perspectives. I wish I'd gotten a physiatrist sooner and asked him to check out my back before amputation, because I wouldn't want back problems to make the recovery even more painful. Aside from the phantom limb pain, just being in a wheelchair post-amputation can make existing back problems worse. For me, it took an MRI for me to realize what was going on. Second, I wish I'd started exercising smarter during the years I couldn't walk. I stayed relatively active for being in a wheelchair, but I wasn't specifically targeting the muscle groups that needed it. I suspect a few minutes a day would have made a big difference. Third, work smarter, not harder. For me, something as small and lightweight as corecoach has expedited my healing. A little change can make a big difference. So thank you, corecoach, for sending me your product. It's really helped. Wheelchairs and back problems tend to go together. If you're an amputee, your doctors and physical therapists might have recommendations for useful tools and strategies based on your specific needs. If you'd like me to try some of them out, tell me in the comments. And if you want to know more about phantom limb pain and what to expect post-amputation, here's the playlist. And whatever you're going through, hang in there. You've got this.